Let me ask you something. How do you feel when you get an invitation in the mail to an upcoming family wedding or a high school graduation or some event that you're looking forward to? When I think about it, there's sort of like this double whammy of good news. There's both, I'm going to get to go to this party, right? I'm going to get to go and see this couple get married, or I'm going to get to go and celebrate with them, or you maybe start thinking about what entree you're going to pick or what flavor the cake will be. That will be good. But then you also think, especially if it's a group of people you care about, you think about, oh, who else will be on the guest list? This will be a chance also to see a whole bunch of other friends of mine that I have in common with the bride and the groom, or other classmates from back in high school, or what have you. There's this sense of both the one who's at the center of attention throwing the party is a reason to go, but also, oh wow, there's going to be all these other people who that host is likely to invite. The bride and the groom, they're going to invite a whole bunch of other people who I want to get to see as well. They're inseparable, right? When you're throwing a big wedding celebration, when you're sending out invitations for a wedding reception, it's not just about the bride and the groom, it's also about all the other people they want to have celebrate with them, and the thought of, yeah, I want to get to be there for that. I want to get to see not just the happy couple or not just the old school building, but I want to get to see all this circle of other people who I care about. And if we're going to push this a little bit further, the way you get an invitation to a party like that, a wedding reception, a high school graduation, isn't that you have to earn your way in, buy your way in, accomplish your way in. You're just handed an invitation by, well, to use the church's word, grace, right? The bride and the groom think, who are the people we want to have at our party with us? And they send out invitations. They don't sell tickets, they send out invitations. This is what makes a wedding reception different from buying concert tickets. There's something important about the idea that the family throwing the party, or the class reunion organizers throwing the party, they invite people far and wide, and you haven't earned your spot there. It's given to you. And what makes it exciting is both whoever is at the center of attention, the bride and the groom getting married or whatever, but also all the other people who will be there. Every year, in the church's way of keeping time, we have a day where, if nothing else, at least this one Sunday a year, we focus on the good news of being gathered with God's saints from all time and all place. And to be clear, when we talk about the saints, we're not just talking about a handful of VIPs, a very small little subgrouping of people who have earned their way into God's good graces by feeding enough orphans or praying enough prayers or writing some work of theology. We're talking about how all of us who've been claimed by Jesus, all of us who are still dripping wet with baptismal water, every last one of us through time and space who's been gathered into the community of Jesus, we are saints. We're holy because Jesus makes us holy. In other words, we're people who are on the guest list, not because we're so great, but because the host has decided the party wouldn't be the same without us. That's just it. At the heart of the Christian faith is God's choice to send out an awfully wide distribution list of invitations, because the party wouldn't be the same without any of us. And so we remember not just the big names of important figures in church history that you might name a church after or make a stained glass window figure. We remember, sure, people like Peter and James and John from the Bible, or significant figures throughout Christian history, Dorothy Day or Dietrich Bonhoeffer, or St. John Chrysostom or St. Thomas Aquinas. But also we think of the people in our own lives who've touched our lives and reflected Jesus' light into our lives. We think of the woman who taught you Sunday school when you were in kindergarten. We think of the person who first sang four-part harmony in your ear at the pew next to you when you were growing up and you learned how to sing the church's faith in hymns and harmony because of their voice. Or it's the person who first told you and it finally got through to you that you were beloved of God. Or maybe the person who in your life experience first helped you to see the need to care for our neighbors, or took you on a service project or an outing, or helped you to ask questions about why there are people in need in your neighborhood or your community. All of these people are holy. All of these are people who are on the guest list. All of these are people who Jesus has invited to be at the party. And so while we Christians have this hope of one day being in the presence of Jesus, of one day being in that great, glorious, what sometimes the Bible calls the marriage feast of the Lamb, right? Picture it like a big wedding reception. It's also the excitement about being reunited with all the other people who will be on the guest list, and that promise that even if it's been a while since we've seen them, we'll all be there gathered at the tables together. And that as much as our hearts are centered on Jesus, Jesus also has a way of inviting an awfully big guest list, and that those are people we will be reunited with. So it's our practice in many congregations, certainly here at Community of Christ, that we'll remember those from our congregation who've died in the last year, not as an act of grieving and mourning that we will never see them again, but just the opposite, to say, don't forget, they're on the guest list. We'll see them again. We'll be all there at the party together. And we lift up names of people in our own lives who've been important to us that we want to remember and to know we haven't lost that connection. This is part of why week by week in our affirmation of the creed, we talk about believing in the communion of saints, that we remain connected even to those who have gone before us, because we have this assurance we're all on the guest list. We're all going to be at that big grand party that God is throwing. And that makes a difference for how we face our lives here and now, because we're confident that at the last, death doesn't get the last word. We're confident that at the last, God is victorious. We're confident that the end of the story is a grand celebration and party where everybody's there. Seriously, read Isaiah 25, everybody's there. And that's our hope. So, this coming Sunday, as always, our worship is centered on God. But because of who God is, God throws an awfully big party that includes a wide, wide circle of people, even people who we haven't seen in a very long time, even people who we've been parted with because of death. But we have the confidence they're on the guest list. We have the confidence that they'll be there at a table and we'll find our place and be able to pick right up with those who we've loved and who have gone before us. That's part of our hope as Christians as well. And that's what's coming up this coming Sunday as we celebrate All Saints Sunday. So, join us then as we remember and as we look forward to that big party for which the invitation is already in your hand. See you Sunday.